Welcome back to Vancouver Carpenter. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do a tight skim on a wall. And that's something I haven't done too often in my videos. I usually do, so this is a freshly sanded first coat. And so normally what I do is especially over a painted wall where it wants to bubble, is I will skim it really tight and then I'll skim it again to try and leave a little fat on, a little bit of meat on that mud so that there's something to sand. But in this case, I have this wall so smooth already that what I'm going to do is only the tight skim. So it's well sanded. I spent a little time with my sponge sander getting into all the corners so that I'm not gonna get little boogers in the mud. And so those corners are gonna come out nice and crisp, because when you're doing a tight skim, there is no material left to float out inconsistencies. So the tight skim is there to fill in any of the little stuff. So I don't know if you can come up here, get a little bit closer. So you can see, even though most of it looks perfect, if you get right up close, you can see these little pinholes. So yeah, this would not make for a nice painted surface because there's little holes there that somebody's gonna have to fill after it gets painted. There. Okay, so there's two things, well there's a lot of things, but here's another thing when doing a tight skim, is what kind of mud are you using? So I'm using finish mud here, and I'm gonna be mixing it real thin. And this will probably be more than enough for that whole wall, because it goes on so thin. First I gotta mix it up though. Really helps to have good mixing tools when doing this, because you wanna have all of it mixed to a nice thin consistency. And we're gonna be going pretty thin here. Adding a little more water. I don't have, specific ratios for you. It's just gotta be pretty soupy. That might be good enough. It's fairly runny. I'm gonna go even a little bit thinner, because what tends to happen is while you're working with it on the wall pulls the moisture out of it. So I'm going just slightly runnier than I want it. There we go. So another thing is, the thinner the mud is, the more it shrinks. So that's why having such a well-prepped wall that's so smooth is important. Because again, this stuff isn't gonna have enough left on there. I gotta say this again, I'm saying it all wrong. My point is, if there's any deep inconsistencies that need to be filled, this stuff's gonna shrink too much. So it's really thin. Let's take a look at this. It's basically thick enough that I can still work with it, but runny enough that that it's easy to work with in this case. So I'm using my 12" by 5" Curry stainless steel trowel. Got my Richard stainless steel 6" knife, 14" Hawk, and these are gonna be the tools of the trade, my preferred tools for this job. I'm not using any skimming blades. The reason is, I find when doing this, I have way more control and I do a faster job with the smaller tools than I do with the bigger tools, unless I had a huge wall. Now we're getting too technical, you guys. If I had a huge wall, I'd break out the roller and the fancy tools. But on just this one wall, yeah, we'll do it by hand. Okay, and we got a wicked scaffold set up here. The old 2x6 balance beam on the ladder, but it's good enough. It's not a long way down. I'll be okay. That set up. Well, there we go. Right about there. And I got one last thing here that I couldn't get because I didn't have the scaffold set up. Right here in this corner. I want to get this all nice and tidied up. And a little bit this way. Again, that's that prepping to make sure it's smooth enough to just skim it with really thin mud. So time to get to it. So So I'm not going to be putting as much mud on my hawk as I would normally take for a first coat because, well, you just don't need it. And you're going to spill it. Because it's so runny, it's really common to like, you'll be like wiping the wall, trying to get it all nice and perfect, and meanwhile this thing's getting ready to have a big blob on the floor. So in this case, you don't need any more mud than this, and if you're a noob, well, you're gonna get a lot of mud on the floor. But the more mud you have on here, the more you'll get on the floor. Okay, so, well, I can just barely reach this. I already went to like my max height. Let's see what we're gonna do here. So we're just gonna put the mud on, and as you can see, it's gonna bubble like crazy as I'm applying it. Why? Because I'm applying it on top of mud that's on a painted surface. So all that air that's in the mud has nowhere to go but back out of the mud. And I've done videos on this before. The only way to get rid of that is to do a tight skim, which is what we're doing. We're just not gonna be skimming it out anymore after. So I'm not gonna cover the whole thing. I wanna, you know, just like do as much as I can work with efficiently. So sometimes you can even push it back this way. It's gonna help and push it. Like what you're doing is there's all these little pockets of air in here. And you're trying to like force the mud in. And then as the air comes out, it goes like, no, I don't wanna go into the wall. I wanna pop back out. So you kind of have to work it a couple directions sometimes. So first thing, feather your edge, just like you should be feathering that leg button, like button. Feather the leg button if you're into it, I don't know. Okay, so feathering your edge, if you're new to this channel, is when you push really hard on the edge of the trowel, and that's what helps you get that super fine edge right there. So it's getting better, and now that I feathered, I'm gonna do this. I'm not taking all the material off yet. Again, I'm kind of trying to work it in there. See, as I went that way, the bubbles got a little bit better. So this is just kind of time consuming, especially because I'm talking so much. If I wasn't talking, I'd be done this section and on to the next. But anyway, so that's a tight skim right there. And it has a lot to do with the angle you hold the trowel at. Okay, where was I at? I'm like brain farting. Yeah, right, we're here doing a tight skim. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So yeah, tight skim, the angle of the blade. That's what's important here. So the first passes might be kind of shallow like this, but then as you do the tight skim, you're going to push harder and you might change the angle of the blade a little bit more this way. Too much this way, it's gonna do the washboard effect where it chatters. But anyways, it takes a bit to get the feel of it, but basically I'm just pushing real hard. And there's little pinholes right here, but they're filled. So that's what you're gonna be looking for, is that they're not like big bubbly fish eyes, but that those holes are filled. And then to get it looking smooth like that with no lift off, well, that's just knowing how to use the trowel. So we'll get into that on the next pass. See, this mud's already thicker because of how long I left it on that wall. Let's try and work with it and get it done. Okay, so apply the mud. Bubbles like crazy, as you can see. Yeah, bubbles like crazy. So at this point, I can just start skimming. I'm cleaning my blade here. So how do we do that without leaving a big, huge line? Well, let me show you. All right, so I've talked about this before in other videos, but when you are skimming, so it's all about where the pressure on the blade is. So on every one of these passes, my pressure is just slightly like this. And I'm also using a pretty firm grip on the trowel at this point because I need to. That's another thing. Jeez, there's so much to know. You guys should be watching my other videos on hawk and trowel basics. If this is all really confusing to you, a lot of that stuff is covered in the hawk and trowel basics. So we need to get into the how do you not get that lift off. So yeah, it just has to do with where you're putting the pressure on the blade. So I'm kind of working it out there. I'm gonna go a little further. Yeah, it has to do with the pressure of the blade. My first one, I'm gonna feather like this really hard to get that burned down. And then on all my consecutive ones, the pressure is very slightly, it's right here. It's like with these two fingers right here. So that's my grip on it. It just did that thing I was talking about. I was too busy talking to you guys. Let's find somewhere to put that, huh? Now it's got hair and dirt in it. It's honestly hard to make a video and teach things while doing a kind of time-sensitive job at the same time. Okay, here's some ram board. I think I can get away with putting this right here. Have any more dog hair in the mud? No, we're good. Okay. Pretty soon here, I'm gonna actually just start moving and you guys can watch it happening in real time. A little bit of bubbles. Go that way. One more. Okay. I do this section here. I want to trade spots. Let's do some real-time coating here. Not all this talking. Because, yeah, I want to go skateboard. As usual, it comes down to me wanting to go skateboard. Feather that edge. If you haven't feathered that like button by now, what's your problem, man? Lady, kid, I don't know who you are. Probably not a dog. They don't drywall. But then again, that's totally speciesist of me. All right. Okay, I don't need to be going there. I need to get back to that other section. But yeah, there's not so much to it. Oh man, I'm starting to coat this like it's a Friday wall. It is Friday, isn't it? Good. Get a little more mud. Try to keep a wet edge. It's not super critical to keep a wet edge, but it helps. Just trying to make sure I have good coverage. And this mud's getting thicker too, which is kind of annoying. Getting thicker because I've been talking and not getting it on the wall. I like to keep the edges of my blade clean. Cut half of it. Nope, doesn't fit between there. Doesn't matter which way you come at it, as long as it's smooth when you're done. Okay, we got a little bit of stuff here that needs some love, and we got a camera guy here that can maybe pick it up. You see all this that needs a little bit of help? Oh. Textured ceiling down there. It's super thick. But I'll do it on the next pass. So, you know, usually I actually start from the bottom and work my way up. I don't know why I did it this way. Because when you start from the bottom and work your way up, you're able to keep the mud at the top of your blade. See how it's not puking out the bottom there? That's something I should have done. I'm not sure why I did it this way. You know, it's even something I knew. Come on, Bubbles. Get up. There we go. That's good enough. So you can see, this is why it's called a tight skim. I am not leaving much on here. So now I'm going to take this stuff that's way too way too stiff, I often put it kind of right here so that I can then dig from this other stuff right here. So that I'm not always going back to the super dried out stuff. Let's make some time down here. Clean off the back of them blades. Oh, dust. Dust. I just don't want that creating little clumps in my mud. Look at those bubbles. Glorious, hateful bubbles. I hate them so much. But I'm so grateful that I have a wall that is smooth enough that I can skim it tight instead of having to skim it tight and then do it over again. So that's as far as we need to get into that corner. It'll look good. That first one was just to take off the excess before I get to that. See, that's the blob I was talking about from not starting at the bottom. Now we lookin' smoosh. And I sometimes will get my knife in. All right, you see all this stuff right here from running my edge against the, my trowel against the edge of the casing. Well, now we're just gonna take this with a soft hand. Why not? Goodbye. So I often use my knife to work out the little bits. We got a little puppy in the background there that wants to get out. You can't get out from there right now. It's not in this direction. Oh, hateful, hateful bubbles. I know, I can hear you guys. I can hear you in the comments. Ben, why don't you protect the floors? Doesn't anybody do that these days? Yes, often. But these floors are being replaced. I am not a caveman, I swear. Let's get a little more mud. May as well make our actions count instead of doing these piddly little passes. So I really can't tell you exactly how to get the feel of a trowel or a knife. Knives will do the same job. You don't have to use a trowel, guys. This is just the tool that I have learned on, that I'm familiar with, and that I get the fastest, best results. There's like a little paint chip in there, giving me some grief. This is going to be easy sanding on Monday. Yeah, I got too much on here, gotta unload it. What better place than the wall and the floor? Let's take a little bit of that. You don't need that all there. Put it right here. Get right down close to that plug there, right there. Don't get electrocuted. Oh, getting there. Oh, chunks. Pretty good, yeah. Oh, I almost put my, fortunately this box is really sunk. Almost put my trowel right on the edge there. If you accidentally, like if you have a live plug and you accidentally push the mud in there and it touches those little bolts, you're gonna get a shock through your trowel. Ask me how I know. Okay, we got this one annoying little spot right here. So you gotta get a nice clean knife. Can you see that bit right there? It's causing me a little grief. Gotta get a nice clean knife. Just, that'll have to be good enough. Those little bubbles right there, if you can even see them, I will fill come sanding day. A real quick, just like skim, it'll dry in 5 minutes, and we'll sand it. So sometimes, if there are very small imperfections on a job like this, that's what I'll do, is I will actually fill them on sanding day because they're so small that they will dry in like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, depends how much air movement you have and how warm the place is, but a really small fill of like a pinhole or a very small scratch. Oh, hey, there's the washboard. All right, I got a little washboard, but I don't know if the camera's picking it up. So before you guys can see it, let's get rid of it. There we go. I'm almost getting some mud on the floor here again. Get rid of a bit of that. And we are at the final passes here. I'm happy with that. We got one little thing right here. We can make a bit prettier. Alright, everything on here I can live with. And it's still too wet for me to be able to fix anything. But if I really need to, like something like this might be dry enough. Probably can't see it, it's again a teeny little bubble. But I can even just like put a little mud on like that. Even though it doesn't look as pretty as my skimmed wall, the fact is it'll sand out no problems. You know, with time, you just learn how mud works. You learn when it's gonna pull, when it's not going to. And also, I'm gonna move over here. With time, you actually get like worn in blades. So that's another thing I should have mentioned at the very start of this video, but I'm only thinking of right now because there's actually so much little knowledge in here, but really worn in, rounded over blades work the best for a skim coat. So yeah, this is like an old worn in knife. That square edge is long gone. These trowels have like super rounded over edges. In fact, it's so sharp, it's so sharply rounded over, you could practically slice a tomato with this thing. But yeah, those round edges help compress the mud into the wall instead of scratch and washboard it off. So that's one thing to know. The older your tool is, and obviously no nicks or dings. This thing has been dropped like 10 times and somehow is still perfectly straight, has no nicks or dings in it, and still leaves one of the best finishes out of all of my trowels. This, my trusty old 12x5 Curry. Yeah, I don't even know where to find them. If I can link them in the description, I will. They're good tools, but I can't seem to find any links for the Curry tools. Sponsorship? Come on, Curry. Anyways, you guys, this video is done. Let's take a step back and look at this. So as you can see, yeah, we have a flawless skim coat, except for one, again, little washboard there that I didn't see, but that'll sand out. Yeah, I'm happy with this. It's gonna look really good. The reason we did this is because of this window right here. There was a couple of big humps in the wall from settling. When you can see that joint at 4 feet that goes all the way across the wall, that's what we had there. And now it's all gone. So it just needs to be sanded and painted and it's gonna be awesome. And I'm babbling because I've been chatting at you guys for like half an hour, which means I'm super tired. And it means we're officially getting a good, awkward, rambling outro. You happy? Good. Me too. I'm done. Time for me to go do something else with my day. I hope you're doing awesome. I hope you're getting some wickedly skim-coated walls with some of these tips. And if you're not even here for that and you were just here for the entertainment, I hope you liked it. Till the next one, you guys.